Okay, so let's create a new project, and we'll call this. I'm going to call it chapter 9 menus. Okay. So with the menu strip, you can create these menus up here, like you see in this application here. All these stuff can be created in Visual Studio. So if you thinking about creating your own application, this is the way to do it. So I'm just gonna format my form here. I can change the starting position to center. Okay, so in the toolbox, under the menus and tools component, so let me close the common ones. Inside the menus and toolbar, you see this menu strip here. Okay, when you drag this in here, it will drag right into the top of your form. You cannot put this in the middle or on the left or on the right. Either the top or the bottom, if I'm not mistaken. I think usually it's in the top, okay, because that's where menus are, right, at the top. So if I drag it here, and just like any object, you click on it, and you can go into the properties over here and give it a name. So menu would be just what MNU, I don't know. You can call it, this is like the file menu. But if you follow what you see in Visual Studio here, you can actually replicate all these here. So the first is going to be file menu. Okay, I give that a name. And if you click on the file menu, you see that the first option here, I probably should call file menu, just say main menu or something. The first item here, you see that you can type in a name. You click on it, right? Drop down menu item, or you can just click on it, you type in a name. You can just say file, right? You see that it looks just like that already, file. But notice that when I press in the Visual Studio, you press the Alt key, the F and the E, and those came out, right? We did that before, right? Same thing. If you click on this file menu, it has its own properties over here also, right? The entire menu strip here, this one here, the entire menu, I should probably call it a different name. I just call it not file menu, but this would be like menu, maybe main menu. Okay, something like that. Menu main. This is entire navigation, because you can see that you have multiple menus. One here, you can have another menu strip below that, and so on. So this is the main menu, and then the first item here is file. If you click on the file, okay, I can go over here to the properties and give it a name. You just call it file tool strip menu item. You can change that to like file strip menu tool. That's a lot. Like you just call it MNU, maybe, I don't know, file. Just give it a name, just like you do with any other object. And then right down here where the text is, you can change that, or we can leave it as is, right? And if you remember how we did that, things like the at symbol, at in front of it, I think. Okay, you see that it has the underscore, underline the F here. That's the Alt shortcut key, right? The access key. So it's something as when I do the Alt key, you see that it's underlined the F. So you run this application, for example, you run it, and there's the file. I press the Alt key, there it is, right? Just like this one here. Okay, so you can add that there, and then you can go on to add the next menu over here. You click on that next box, and this will be your edit. You tab it over, and you have the view, project, and so on. So you see how easy that is, right? And you can even type directly here too. So if you, let's just say on the project would be, I think it's a P for the underscore. Let's see. Yeah, that's a P. So you can click on it. You click it again a couple times slowly. You see that the text is here. You can change right away. And I can put the and symbol in front of that here. Same thing as I go down here and change that down there. Okay, so you can see that it's now the P is underscore. The V, I can do the same thing. Right click, just slowly click a few times until you have the edit box mode. For the N in front, for the V, the E is for the edit. Right, ampersand here and there. And you want to add submenus, so if you click File, you see that it has a new, open, and so on. So you can do the same thing. If you click on File, you can see there's a drop down box below that, right? Down here, you can just say New, and you go down to the next one, Open, right? And here, if you want to, so if you look under File, you see a separator, that's the bar here. You can do that too. Click on it right here. I want this to be a separator, right? So you can just say separator, and then you have a separator. So down here you have like save, and then at the bottom could be like close or something, right? So it's all there now. And you can build menu this way and go to the edit menu, same thing. So if you run this now, you see that it's all there, just like that. Very easy, and then it has no function in there yet until you put the method in there to make it work. Okay. So what happens when you click File, or what happens when you click Open, or when you save, right? So for example, if you want to save your text files, you could double click on the save, and there you have a function. It's subroutine to do the saving for you. Okay, and just to say that you did something save, you could just say, a message box. Just as soon as you save it, say date file or something is saved, right? If you do that, then when you run this application, you see that when I click save, file, and save, it shows the message. Okay, so the action inside here, you can do exactly like you did before with the buttons, with the text boxes, and we just showed the selection box and all those stuff. You can do exactly the same thing you do here. You can do whatever you want with this method here. So again, if you want to do one for the new, double click that. You have a function, a subroutine for the new. If you want to do for the close, and the close will be just basically is me.close, right? That will close the application. For example, it would quit the application. And then so when you run this, you say, oh, I want to save it. File's been saved. Now I want to close it, and it close the application. Okay. So you can build a fully functional application using this MenuStrip here, using the menu, and which is quite nice and very, very easy. We didn't have this luxury way back, but now it's just like so easy to do this stuff. Okay, so we know how to make the menus, the submenus. Okay, so if you click on the submenus here, again, you can have submenus as well, right? If you if you do open here, and then if you say, you add something open, a text file, you can do like an image file, or a binary file, for example. If you can do all those stuff, and then when you run, you have like navigation under new, open, you have different options. Okay, so you can build this menu, you can go have unlimited levels. So when you look at this file under project, you'll see that some of these menus have the shortcut keys as well. Control Shift A, Shift Alt A, right? Close will be like, you don't see here, like Control Save for Control S for save. You can add that too. So here, like the close, I could click that, and this arrow here, Okay, it no, I think it's not here. Maybe it's down the properties down here. You can have a shortcut key right here. Shortcut key on the properties window. It says none. You can go and add your own. You can use the control, right, or the shift, alt, all three, or just any one of those, and you can create your own method here. So Control S for save, or for Control X for close, usually, right? You can find the X. You have all these, not X for cut. So Control C is usually Control W to close. Okay, and then you just click out of that, and now it adds the Control W to close. Right, and then you have edit will be like copy and then paste and so on. Right, so Control N here for the new. I could just say Control N for new, and there I have it. And if you do like Control S for save, just want to show that that works. Shortcut key, Control S to save. Okay, so if I save this, if I run, and in here, if I click save, it saves it. Okay, if I do a Control S, it saves it, right? And if I do a Control W, it's going to close it. So it's fully functional. So it's a very, very nice tool to build your project. So you can see how you can do what you can do with Visual Basic and build a really good application. You know, anything you want in here. So that's the MenuStrip control. Any questions on how you can build this MenuStrip here? It'll be good. Okay. I'm not sure if you add another one, what it does to it. Let me see if I copy this. Yeah, so you have a submenu, right? So if you run this, you see that you have two menus, one below the other. Okay, although they're kind of duplicated, but you see that you can have different menus, one below the other one here. Just like up here, you have a menu here, you can have another menu full of icons. Here I'm just showing you can put files. You can also replace this with images. So if you click here, and if you see on the properties over here, you have graphics, right? Instead of text, you can replace it with graphics, so you have these little icons here, like these. Okay, you can build an entire menu here in Visual Studio. So it's very, very powerful. Okay, so let me just remove this second menu, and then we'll save this. All right, so the next thing I want to do is we're going to add another form. So let's just go and add a new form. Project, add Windows form. And this time we're going to give it a name. We'll call it, what do we call it? Which we would call the form 2 here. Instead of form 2, you can give it a name. Just to say, maybe student, you know, info. Okay. And we have a form called student info. The form 1, we could just rename this to something else. So if you click on the form 1, and you can do a right click and do a rename. We'll call this maybe just, you know, main, or main form or something, okay, or main screen. Let's call it main form. Rename project, just say yes. Okay, you want everything to be renamed to the new form. So if you don't do that, it's going to have some errors. Assuming if you keep changing to different name, and it's going to find everywhere else where it has form 1, it's going to automatically change it to the main form. Okay, so this a student form here. Let's just say that you want to add a something here. You want to add the main control. I want to add, let's just say, the name. Put a label here. Just student name, a student ID, student name, and major, right? So you can do something like that. Actually, you should delete this. So the first one here is going to be student ID. Okay. And let me make this a little bit bigger so we can see. Student name, ID, name, and then just major. Okay. So this is label, so I'm not going to worry about the naming stuff, but the display here is important. The name, and then this is just major. Okay. And so now I'm going to put a text box next to it. It's fine. Over here. Okay, we'll modify this. That would be txt ID, and I'm gonna just change the font to 20 again. Make that kind of big, and then copy this, paste. This will be the student name, and then this is the student major. We can align these so they look nicer. So you could do this, select all of them, align right here. Okay. This is the ID, this is the name, so this should be txt name, txt major. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to form 1, or the main form. We go back to the main form and the design here. Right, we have these up here. We just leave this as fine. So it's just a view. Under the view, I'm going to put another menu here. I call it student. Student record or something. Okay, so student record, and I'm going to double click it, so we have this method here. Okay, what I want to do is that when I click the menu called student record, it's going to load this different window. All right, so because right now if you run it, you get the main menu page here, and when I click the view student record, it should load this page, this form. Okay, so to do that, you have to do this. So go here again to the student record here. You want to say, when I click the button, then load the form called student info. Student info dot show. Okay. This form here and this form here, that the student info form and these two forms, they exist in the same space. They exist in the same project called Chapter 9 Menus. Okay, so therefore I can access the form directly inside any other forms in here. So I can use the main form. I can access the student form directly by using the student form info.show. What that means is that anything belonging to the student form, I can also access directly from here. So for example, let's just say inside a student here, okay, if I were to go into the code view, view the code, not this main one, the student info one. Or you just double click it, it's fine. In the code view. Okay, so this is a student form, info form. If I have a function, you know, or yeah, a function, let's just say function no, subroutine is fine. Sub show you know, data. Okay. And inside here, I want to say the message box dot show student data. It just basically load a message box says student show data. This is in the form student form. In the main form, I can access this data from the main form by going to student info dot, for example, student info dot show show data. It's not there. Okay, I have to make it something show. Let's see, public. Let's see if that's the case. I'll explain why. Let's see if that's in there. That show. Let me see. Okay, I'll do that later. It's more of the object-oriented part, but I want to say that you can actually access another method inside here if you create the instance of this object. I think I'm going a little bit ahead of myself here. But for now, let's just run this file. I want to show that you can actually load that menu, the student information from the main menu here. Okay, by doing the student show info.show. So let's run this. And if you click under the view and student record, okay, so you see that it loads the second form here. Okay, we couldn't do that before because we haven't we're not there yet. Here, so now notice I can go back and forth between the two forms, right? I can go back here, and then if I were to do it again, right, it wouldn't make sense because it's already open. So I can do some input here, and then I can close it. And once you put it like OK or close, and then it will return back to its main menu. Usually that's how you do your applications, right? Otherwise, you would say after you load this, then you close this window, you move to the next window. Okay, this is called a. Notice when I run this, right? I have access to both windows. I can go back and do stuff here, and do stuff here as well. Okay, this is called a. I think that it's a modeless, or we call it non-modal windows. You have the modal and non-modal. Okay, modal means you can move back and forth between those two forms by using the dot show. The modeless or the non-modal, same thing. Here, so there's another one called show dialog. Okay, if you put show dialog instead of just dot show, now you're restricting the two windows so that the one that is currently open has to be closed before you can access any other windows. Okay, so for example, if I save it now, if I run back to the main window, if I click view and student record, right, just like before, but if I try to go back, notice it won't let me go back. Okay, you can't go until you complete this task here. And once you're done, and once you close it, only then you can go back to the other window. Okay, so you have these two options in there to build your window. One here, maybe if it's like just a pop-up menu to kind of give some information about a certain thing here on the screen that you want to, explain to the user. So that could be a non-modal screen, right? You can switch back and forth. If you want to, have student or someone to enter data, and then once those data are entered, you can go back to the main screen. Then you want to set that to the modal form. Okay, so you want to restrict that, so you cannot go back and forth between the form until the other one is closed. So that means you can only access one window at a time. Whereas the modeless, you can access all of them. Okay? So now the next thing is okay, I want to make sure I didn't miss anything on that window there. So we have the modal and non-modal, and there's one more thing I wanted to cover. Is there any questions on these? That's the menu screen. Chapter 9. Okay. Well, okay. So let's see if this one works. I want to do something like this. Just say public ID as string 1 2 3 4, public name as string, Mary K, public major computer science. Okay. So from there, let's name here, and I want to see if we can access it from this side. So let's just say public ID as string. So go to main form dot let's see. So if you were to have, for example, in the main form here, I have the student ID, name, and major all here, right? And because I made them to be public, what that means is that other forms can also access these data, okay, by using the dot notation. So in the student form, I could access the student ID here by going to the main form dot ID or main form dot name, main form dot major. Okay. Same thing if all these functions are set to public. If it's private, you cannot do it. Okay. It's private means it's only contained within this class called main form. Anything that's set to public, other forms can access it too by going through the main form. This is like the entry, the door to everything inside this class. Okay, so all these three records fields here can be accessed from other forms, as well as any other functions or method that you set to public. So in here, then I can say when I load this form, so the student form, if you double click this form, we load it, I can now populate the text field, even though it's in the student form. The text field ID from the ID is coming from the main form. Okay, the main form dot ID, if I know that actual ID, the main form dot name, main form dot major, so I can move this data over to the other student form here. Okay, so you can just say now txt name dot text is coming from the main form dot name. Okay, txt major dot text is populating from the main form dot major. You can pass this data back and forth between the two. And if student will also have some data over here in its own, right, then I can also do that too. So I could call this show data here, even though it's let me put an S here just to be consistent. Okay. Not sure what that means, but because this is public, I can actually access the data, this function from the main method as well. So somewhere in here, I could show, like, instead of just the dialog, I could just say student dot info dot show data. Okay, I can call that from here, so it will load the message, and then it will also load the window. So when that window is loaded, it's going to call the student form. Okay, and then in the form, it's going to run the base load, and it will populate those 3 fields with the data coming from the main form. Okay, let's see if that's the case. So here's the main form. I click on student record. Okay, it shows that student data. That's because when it loads this, it goes in here. It runs this subroutine. The first thing is load the subroutine called show data in the student info form. So it goes in here, and then runs this method here, show the message box. That's what you see here. Okay. Then once I close the message box, because now it's in modal form, right? Default is a modal form. I cannot go back until I close this button here, this window here. Once I close it, then it loads the student form, and then that's this second line here. And then it loads the student form and show dialog. This is also a modal form, and then once you load that, then that's what I see, all these data being populated, coming from the main form here. One thing that you notice that the student name here, it says the main form. Okay, and why not like Mary Kay? Why is it main? I think I used that because it's a reserved word. Not reserved, but it's main, meaning like it's gonna call the main form name, which is not good. So I should really change that to something else. So the underline here, it says only used for the main. That's this name here. So main.name will give you that. If you call student.name, will give you the student class name. So I shouldn't have used that. I should see like maybe student name. Okay. And then now we can go back to the form here and change it to student name. Okay. So I'm passing data from the form, main form, to the student form. So it should be correct now. Click here, view, close that, and here I have student ID, Mary Kay, and computer science major. Okay. And I can't go back until I close this button. So you can do some stuff. You can modify this, right? You can change the data here, and then close it, and you modify the content in the main screen. Okay, so what that means is that this is form ID comes from the main screen. This is where the actual data lives, right? Inside the space here in the main form. These are populated with this data, and I could actually, change the data here in the student form. So for example, if I go into the student form here, after I load this, display that, and let's just say I want to change the content, I could still also do that. I could just say, main form dot major. I'll change it to something else. Just say maybe web dev or something. Okay, web dev. So notice, let's see what happens. Okay, when I run, it shows that it's say computer science, which is good. I close it. I run it again, and now it says web dev, right? So you can change it while you are at this form. So because I changed that to web dev, from here on it's going to be web dev. But initially it was called computer science. And so for this screen, you can turn this to an edit screen. So you can make modifications here. Instead of just closing this, you could do that. We just say OK here to close it, and then once you close, then now the data has been changed, and you can show the updated data on the main screen here. Okay, so you can pass data back and forth from there. I could do this, or I could, instead of doing this in the student form, I could have like nothing here. If I were to, let's say, copy all of these here, this 3 line. Well, let me comment these out, right? This one too. So again, notice when I run, all those are commented out, so there shouldn't be anything there. Blank. That's the way I expect, right? It's blank. And instead of doing here, I could get this data populated from the main form too. So when I run this main form, okay, when I click it, when I run this main form, I could already populate the student data. I could say from here, from the main form, student that what's it called? txt ID dot text is going to be the ID from this here, ID in the main form. I can do that. And student info dot txt name dot text is the name, student name, and student info dot txt major dot text is major. Okay, so as soon as I run this application, it's going to load this form. It filled the student's form with all these data already. And then when I load that form, let me turn off this dialog box. When it showed the student form, the data is already preloaded. And in my form, you notice that I have nothing there. Okay, this shouldn't be here. I can remove all of these, but that's fine for now. So let's see if that's the case. Okay, the main program runs, show student, and you see that it's all pre-populated for me automatically. So you can do that outside of the student form if you know what's inside those fields. And you can, of course, from this form I can manipulate data from the other forms and so on. And you're not limited to just 2 forms. So from here I could just click go and continue to the next form and the next form and so on. Okay, you can also open multiple forms at the same time. Okay. So for example, I could quickly just, let's just say, add a new form. Just call it form, it's going to be faculty, right? Faculty or something. And inside the main form here, when I load the student form, before that I could do like faculty dot show. Okay, but it has to be the modalless. Otherwise, you have to wait, right? So if I change to all of that, okay, and you run it, you see that when I click the record, view student record, it opens both forms, this and this, at the same time. Okay, and because I put to the modeless or non-modal form, I can access all these windows at any time. So you can force it so that this could be modal, but this is not, or something. Okay, so same thing. I can bring these data over from the main form to the faculty, or I can modify here and then pass this data to the faculty form, and vice versa. Okay, the only way to get data to the other form or from the other form, you use the form name, the actual variable name, dot something, dot ID, dot student name, dot major, dot show show total, dot show something. Okay, anything that is set to public, your global variables, and the subroutines or the functions. If it's set to private, you cannot call it. Okay, so for example, if I turn this back on, and let's just say that I go back to the student here and I change it to not public but private. Okay, it's now only private to the student info. So I think that should not let you route. So let's see what happened here. Right, it already gives an error. It says right here, the sub show data is not accessible because it's private. Okay, so it won't even let you run. So that means you cannot do that from here. So here it is. It's a red line. It says it's not public. And you protect that in certain ways, and then we'll discuss this later on about object-oriented. But it has to be set into public in order to be accessed by other class. So that you have the student info class, the faculty class, and you have the main form class. Okay, and you can access any data just by using the class name dot something. Only if it's in the global space, though. Okay, you cannot access data inside a function, right? So in other words, I can't go in here or anywhere in here and for example, I cannot put like for dim number as int is integer 45, right? I cannot access this number from other place because it is only just local variable, right? Only local to the subroutine or the function. You cannot access it. Only in the global space can you access from other class. Okay, any questions on these forms? Now, when you read the book and you do the exercise in the book, you'll probably you'll be reminded again what we just did today. You can also go back and review the video as well. But I want to make sure you know how to call other forms from another form. Okay, you can also go back and notice also that when I run these, right, I have those three forms. Okay, I can access all of them. The only way in this case to close this application is to close the main form, unless you cause a hard an explicit exit to close the program. But when you say me close or something, you can close the form here, and usually you go back to the main form. If I close the main form here, then every window is closed. Okay, if I close this, it doesn't matter, right? The main is still running, the program is still running. But if I were to do that, and I happen to close the main application, you see that everything shuts down. Okay, so you have to close the main application. I could also close other windows from from other windows. For example, the main form, I could go back to the menu here and say, you know, have another here, just say close faculty. Okay, if I do that, and that function here inside the main, I could just say faculty dot close. Okay, that will close the faculty's window programmatically inside the code here from the main window. So for example, if I run this, okay, I open, both forms of form open, right? The student and the faculty here. If I go back in here, I say close the faculty window, close the window, okay? And I could do the same thing if I close the student window from here. I can just say view and close the window, then it will close the window. Or you can you know, explicitly close that as well. But and then you can open it back by going through this whole process again. It's back again, and once it's already open, it's open. It's not going to open another one. Okay, so I can close it and so on. So you can do that from any window. So I'm doing from the main window. I could close the faculty from the student window, which is fine too, and vice versa. All right.